The Jersey Swap podcast is sponsored by Apollo Home. Spring storms can be a stressful time for homeowners, so if you need any help with sump pumps or yard drainage, give Apollo Home a call. They are offering a free consultation to all CST listeners, so give them a call, send them a text, or book online at apollohome.com. Jersey Swap is also sponsored by Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. All right, folks, welcome back to the Jersey Swap podcast. Didn't think that all these April showers were going to lead to the need of a Mayflower ship to get through the Queen City, but I hope you're all staying dry this week. The bad news is that with all this wet weather, we haven't been able to really enjoy spring, especially the cherry blossoms. And I'm hoping that our two guests who represent DC United can reassure us that the cherry blossoms did come and go at the right time. But that's where FCC is going to be this weekend. They're traveling to DC United to face the Eagles. I guess that's what their mascots might be. We got the guys from Bad Hombres FC. We have Jose Umaña and Mario Amaya. And let's bring them up right here. Guys, I'm hoping that, Mario, you're not related to Frankie Amaya.
No, contrary to popular belief, I am not related to Frankie Amaya.
That's a relief to, I think, a lot of people out there. Didn't exactly leave on best terms, but we'll have a little bit of fun here. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us in a special sort of three-way version of the Jersey Swap. Could you maybe introduce yourselves to the public here?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm Jose Umaña. That's Mario Amaya. Bad Hombres FC Podcast, just real quick. We met in college. We stayed in touch all the time. And then when we were professional journalists, quote unquote, professional, we during the pandemic, we just said, let's try this podcast thing out. And so we've been doing podcasts. It's growing little by little. We're audio only based, but we're slowly growing. And we appreciate anyone who's a DC United fan to come listen to us. We talk about the black and red. Screaming Eagles is another exciting way of calling DC United, but we do black and red. And we talk about the Washington Spirit as well, who's our NWSL team. But we've known each other since college. We try to not do a lot of inside jokes, but there's a lot of, like, if you're a fan of DC United, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about that you may be happy to hear, you may be annoyed, or you may be reminded that, oh snap, yes, that did happen. Yes, that is what happened to DC. But yeah, I work for WTOP Radio here in Washington DC, and I cover DC United for them as well as the Spirit, and cover local news 24/7, 365.
As for me, I am a freelance writer, so I write for El Tiempo Latino, which is the local Spanish newspaper here in Washington, D.C. I also cover both DC United and the Washington Spirit for Area Sports Network. So that's a lot of what my basis out, or a lot of my journalism background comes from. As Jose mentioned, we both met in college, we stayed in touch, and we decided, hey, let's do a podcast talking about both DC United and the Washington Spirit.
Right. That's pretty awesome that you guys get to talk about both teams. I wish that we had gotten our hands on an NWSL franchise, but
right,
beggars can't be choosers. The Spirit have done really well in NWSL, so congratulations to them. But we will definitely focus on DC United, who have a few pelts under their belt as well. Not lately, though. I think it's going to be tough to get into some of the talk about DC United. I think a lot of people will point immediately to the 6-1 loss last week. Basically had to travel to San Jose, see good friend Bruce Arena, good friend to us. His son helps our team out. And 3 in the front, 3 in the back, Christian Benteke, goal in the middle. Guys, I mean, what can you talk about this 3-match losing streak with DC United?
I'll go first and just say that it's been a struggle, to say the least, not just as a watch, as a fan, but a little bit of a struggle as tactically what DC is trying to do. When they started the season off, DC last season were very chaotic, but it was your structured 4-2-3-1 with a little bit more chaos. They really didn't have that stable defensive mid. They really were trying to press really hard upfield and dare teams to beat them on the counter. The problem is when you had a team with good speed or two striker system, as we saw with San Jose, they'll come back and bite you. And especially in football where you're trying to have two center backs basically learn on the fly to coexist together. And that's what's been going on, especially in these last 3 games with Kyle Rouse and with Stroud. The communication isn't there, obviously, and that's become an issue. Defensively, they're still trying to figure out what they're doing. It's a whole new back four. They're asking Aaron Herrera, who was an all-star last year, to play more defensive when he last year was taking people on in the midfield. They've kind of allowed David Schnegg, who's a bit of a better passer, but not that one-on-one dual threat that Aaron was. And so you have that issue with the defensive side. And then when they came into the season, the goal was to limit goals. They haven't figured out the formula of how that midfield is supposed to limit goals. I've been reporting all this offseason, and I even spoke to Ali Makai, the GM, like, you let in 70 last year. Like, how are you going to stop that happening this year? And they really try to focus their pickups on getting more defensive help, but clearly they thrifted a lot. And so far, what they've done with the offseason and building, it's not helping on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think that defensively, DC United last year struggled. This year, they tried to amend that by bringing in Kai Riles, who has international experience playing for the Australian national team, and forming a center back partnership with Lucas Bartlett. It's brand new, so I still said they're still working out the kinks. It's just in the last 3 games, the kinks have been more evident than ever. Playing against 3 very high octane offenses in Orlando, Columbus, and San Jose, and just giving up 12 goals in 3 games has pretty much been something that I don't think the fan base has liked too much at all, obviously. But I think that the chaotic nature of how they want to build off playing from the back has hindered them in a way, because there's a set structure, but it's not so much of a set structure, especially with a new back line when everybody's trying to get to know each other a little bit more. And I think with the midfield, they tried with Borisi now before, and they've played it with Matty Patola in the last couple of games, trying to be that linchpin a little bit defensively, and it hasn't quite worked out. So I think that in itself has kind of affected the team a little bit. And offensively, the offensive output has been okay, but it hasn't been stellar. It's still very Christian Benteke dependent. There's still very much a Christian Benteke dependency there. So, because Christian Benteke has 5 goals this season, he's still the team's leading goal scorer. So, Troy Lesesne said it before the start of the season. They were going to Christian Benteke was still going to be the focal point offensively for the team, but they were going to have other players step up and try to make goals. It's just, it hasn't really happened yet. And so I think that them still trying to work out the kinks defensively and offensively has kind of hindered their performance a little bit.
Now, I mean, you brought up Christian Benteke, which is a great player to center your squad around. I mean, the golden boot that he had gotten last year, but even then he didn't immediately produce bangers until last year. Did you see something maybe in his play last year that you can maybe attribute to this turnaround, this acceleration in performance that you were asking for when you signed him?
I think it was his drive to try to get the team to the playoffs more than first and foremost is where you see a lot of his performance. I think in 2023, because when he first came here in 2022, it was still he got here around the time Wayne Rooney took over as head coach after the coaching change that season. So he came towards the tail end of the season. So he didn't really get a lot of time to like kind of adjust. So the season before last, he finally had a chance to like adjust a little more to the league and was still being productive. I just think this season, I think last season was just one where he was getting the service that he wanted in a way, and also creating his own goal scoring opportunities, which really led to him having a MVP candidate and Golden Boot season.
And just to follow up on that, I think you look back at last season, Troy Lesesne, when he started this year, he wanted to play that pressing style, more chaotic than what he did when he was in New York. When this time during the Red Bulls, he wanted to play that pressing style, but by midway through where the League's Cup ended is when he started to realize, I got this big striker right here. Let me just feed him the ball. And you just started seeing DC just center the ball more. And he had this game against Atlanta that he played really well, where I think I had 2 goals and an assist in late in August, early September. Like they just started feeding him the ball more. I think tactically, Troy finally figured out the best way to get the best, not just out of Benteke, but the offense. Just give the man the ball. Where it sounds simple, but in this era of football where we're trying to move the ball around and do, quick touches and get one touch in and out, and then like quick square passing, like something as basic as cross the ball, win those aerial duels, which United were, I think it was like a 3-1 advantage over other teams in aerial duels. When you have that kind of advantage and you have that guy who's willing to go up there and fight for every ball in the air, you have to use them to your advantage. And Mario kind of said it there. Troy entered the season saying the focal point of our offense, we're going to ride Benteke as long as we can. And that in this season, while he did emphasize that he wanted other people to contribute, we see it in the results. Like Christian Benteke is still out here, and he's been adamant. He wants to go to the MLS playoffs. I've not heard a DP say so many times in all my times covering MLS, I want to go to the MLS playoffs. Like it's not a joke to him. Like he really wants to go. He really wants to experience that one game knockout situation, and he wants to go. And he will take this team kicking and screaming if he has to get to that journey.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we sort of joke about what MLS wants to be, does it want to value the regular season more than the postseason? You can still look at the postseason and say, that's right there. That's your Champions League for some of these foreign nationals that come over here. That's your knockout rounds that you've always wanted to play in front of thousands of fans in the stands. So I can definitely see it from that point of view. You also mentioned that while Benteke has been a force and 5 goals already this season, that the offense just isn't gelling around him. What are the options that Troy Lesesne, head coach Troy Lesesne, has brought in to sort of try to amend this need for more offense around Benteke?
I think the biggest acquisition from the offseason was bringing João Pedro from Poland, or the Brazilian winger. He's really, since he started he got picked up an injury, missed a couple of games to start, but since he's played, he's really been a force on the offensive side of the ball. And the way he dribbles and takes on one-on-ones and tries to be an effective runner on the wings. Like I mentioned earlier, Aaron Herrera was that guy on the right-hand side. But because they're asking him to play more defensive, you kind of miss out on that one-on-one threat on the ball that can make crosses and go directly into the middle of the box. That's João Pedro. We haven't seen it statistically, but every time you see him on the ball, he's a threat. And that's the thing that I think for me, seeing this team, it's really lacked. They're really trying this year with Gabriel Pirani, their number 10 that they've had now for 3 seasons. This is the make or break year for most players. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the messaging right now for DC is like, let's see what he's got, and we got to see. And I think the jury's still out. Was he a good pickup? And we see him doing well with the Brazilian under 23s, yet we're still waiting for that breakout game from him where we see the dribbling attribute. We see him, the kicking ability, that playmaking ability that a 10 has. So we're still a wait and see with Pirani, but the main guy for me of all the pickups is Joao Pedro and his addition to be that force that we're lacking in that one-on-one threat.
Yeah, I kind of just piggybacking on what Jose said. Yeah, Joao Pedro has been the main acquisition. I think that he's fitting pretty seamlessly into Troy Lesesne's into the tactical part of the team and just been a threat. You see the flashes there, and you see how well he connects with his teammates around him. I would also want to say Jose Kojima has been another solid pickup. Someone they acquired from San Diego, who San Diego acquired through the expansion draft from St. Louis. He's a
very MLS sentence there.
Yes, very much so. But anyway, I think that Jose Kojima is kind of, I've said this before, he's kind of like that N'Golo Kante kind of player where he just covers every part of the field. He's everywhere at the same time. So he's able to pretty much pick up some of the slack defensively. He's able to connect with other midfielders to create offensive opportunities. So far, I think he's been one of the more solid players. And not only that, Christian Benteke during the prior to the start of the season in the presser before the first game against Toronto to start off the season said he really loved Jose Kojima and the way he's played. And you kind of see why, because he's been one of those guys that has been a starter for most games for Troy Lesesne this season. And he's shown it. I think just his ability to cover the midfield altogether has been something of like has been a help to DC United offensively overall. And I think him and Pedro have done that, have been pretty solid in the midfield so far.
One of the other things that I've really noticed, and looking at the overall roster here, there's been a lot of upheaval. There's been players that have been shown the door, some players that have been brought in. One of the big things that I've noticed, and granted, when you're giving up 70 goals, third most in the MLS last season, you're going to be replacing with new defenders, but also you did a massive upheaval of the goalkeeper union. You now have Kim Jun-hung as your starter. You also have picked up Luis Barazza from NYCFC, Jordan Farr from the Tampa Bay Rowdies. This is all of the goalkeepers are gone. Do you feel that this full-on replacement strategy was necessary? And I mean, do you see any glimpses of hope in having a good, strong core there?
I would say yes, this was necessary. Again, you gave up 70 goals last season. You're gonna want to blow it up and restructure it. There is some hope, especially because Jun-hung Kim has been really good has been a really good addition to DC United. He's a very solid goalkeeper. He is pretty much showing that he is the starter and that there's no way he's letting go of this starting spot anytime soon. I think some of his performances in the last couple of games, well, not the last couple of games, but to start the season, have shown why the coaching staff has complete faith in him moving forward.
And I'll add a little bit. I was lucky enough to talk to with Ali Mackay, the GM, right at the start of the free agency, and I asked about that. I was saying, well, you let go of the whole goalkeeping core. Like, fans are going to look at you a little crazy for doing that. And he basically said, you surrender 70 goals, you have to make changes throughout. And there's one thing we can't forget here, and it's the elephant in the room. While, yes, he's the GM, he can make the calls. DC United was dealing with a wage problem. They were overspending for players. I think they ranked in the top 10 last season in salaries. And a lot of those salaries were just immense that they were paying certain players like Tyler Miller, who was an all-star 2 years ago. He was being paid close to $500K. And so if you're a GM, you're looking at it and you see the production, you're like, well, I think I can get better with a younger goalkeeper. So I think, and then Alex Bono, while he was great and very serviceable last year, there were moments, especially when Troy went into the more chaotic style of this press. There were moments where he looked out of sorts with his back line, and you couldn't tell really if it was really Alex's fault or the back line's fault. And so if you're going to make a full overhaul, you might as well go all the way with it. And that is essentially what I was told by Ali Mackay. You have to go all the way with it. None of the goalkeepers that he let go were his signings, and he just took the opportunity to just start fresh. And when you get rid of a lot of salary, that helps to going fresh and starting young and getting a new goalkeeper core and seeing what you can get out there in the open market.
Yeah, you mentioned, the salary issues. One of the big salaries that you could say were shed, Mateusz Klich, down to Atlanta. I mean, that was a bit of a shock move, I want to say. But what are you losing from having him dealt to a rival?
I'll start here. Like, we lose a lot in terms of what he provides in the midfield. We lose a lot in that player that provides service. He was probably our best set piece taker last season. By the end of the season, I was asking Mario in the press box, like, why is he not taking more free kicks for us? It was kind of ridiculous that DC United had gone about 2 years without a set piece player that could just distribute crosses and then out of nowhere last season, you just saw Klich making great crosses into the box and finding Benteke with ease. And so you lose a guy that was a great distributor, probably very organized in the midfield, two-way player as well. But at the end of the day, and for those who don't know, it was reported that DC was trying to shed the salary and he wanted to stay, but he also was willing to go if the team were going to let him go. There was reports coming out that he was going to go back to Poland. And a commentator in Poland said, I spoke to Klich and he's going to come back home. It just needs to be worked out. And Klich, thinking there's no Google Translate, goes on Twitter and says, well, those are conversations on WhatsApp that you're supposed to keep private. And the whole fan base went, all right, I guess you want to leave. Thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. And at that point, if you're the club, you're kind of left in the bind. Like, do you keep this guy that's talking to media outlets saying I want to go, or do you try to find a way? Clearly there was a deal through him back to Poland, fell through, and they were left with no option. I guess I would have tried to find a way to massage it, just because he's such a good distributor, and this clearly the midfield needs organization. They need a guy, an 8, that's just like, all right, you sit back, I go up. If I set the crosses, I need the back line to stay together. Like, there's clearly just that missing. And it's a huge piece to lose, especially in the middle of the preseason.
It sounds like you had a Lucho Acosta problem for someone else.
Fair enough.
Hey,
yes,
look,
that is very accurate.
The only difference between that and Lucho Acosta is Google Translate was not involved in that.
So let's talk a little bit about this game coming up. I mean, I'm seeing sort of a 4-2-3-1 approach that Troy Lesesne has used. Of course, Benteke being sort of the spearhead at the top. I guess with the pieces that you have coming off of this road trip, how do you see Saturday's game pulling together? What can DC United do to sort of lessen the blow of this loss that they had, other than just winning the game outright?
I think there's going to be, and Troy talked about it in the post game press conference after the loss to San Jose. He said that he's looking to change things up a little bit. So I'm expecting there may be some change in the midfield. With the game on Saturday against Cincinnati. I'm not sure what kind of changes. I can't really speculate to that because, again, those are things that happen during game day, but I would expect some kind of change in the midfield or some kind of shift defensively where they play with a 3-man back line and play a little more conservative against Cincinnati. So that's one of those changes I expect that going into that game. It's going into the game on Saturday.
I'm going to be a little more reserved in what I think Troy was going to do. I heard him say, "Oh, there's going to be a lot of changes," and I'm like, let's see what's on your bench right now. And one thing is still unclear is how healthy is Aaron Herrera. And yeah, he played about 40 minutes or 35 minutes, and Troy said that that is as much as he can play right now because of the injury to his ankle. If he can't go a full 90, then that's another threat that DC loses. To Mario's point, they have to show that they can be more defensive. They did experiment early in the season with playing what lines up as a 5-back, but really it turns into a 3-man back line once the wingers go out. They could try that. I think Matty Patola has played center back in the past. He could probably sneak in and play that role, or they could try McNaughton, who had a horrendous game 3 games ago actually against Orlando. They could probably bring him back out again to try and see. I'm curious to see if Kojima plays in that hole in the if they go back to the 4-2-3-1. If Kojima last game against San Jose played in the hole next to Patola in the 2. It kind of limits how much of the field he can go. Whereas if he's playing up forward more, he's allowed to go around the field and really be a little bit more of a visionary, kind of see where things are going and create passing lanes and kind of roam. Whereas if he's in the hole, he's kind of restricted in trying to help the defense or wait when he steps up or Patola steps up. So I would hope that that be one of the changes, because early in the season, you could see teams had no answer when Kojima was up front. Playing kind of withdrawn behind Benteke. And the key for me, to be honest, is what do they do with Gabby Pirani? Is Gabby starting or is he on the bench? Because when he starts matches, while that seems to be his best output where we get the most out of him, the last 3 games especially, he hasn't contributed as much. His touches have been limited. It's like if teams are just kind of daring DC, play the ball to Pirani, and they'll play him the ball, and Pirani's not taking people on. He's not creating passing lanes. He's not doing anything as a 10 you'd want to do. And so if they keep Pirani out there, it's another chance to see what he got. But if they don't start with Pirani, it kind of could be to me, it would seem as the beginning of the end of the Pirani experiment, and maybe shifting the formation a little bit to something more of a balanced midfield than this chaotic nature. Because there's a joke in Spanish that we have with certain players like Pirani. You playing with 10 with him unless he touches the ball, meaning you don't see him the whole match until he suddenly has the ball. And so you're playing with 10 men. And so to me, if Troy decides to sit him to start, it could signal the beginning of the end of whatever they're trying to do with Pirani.
And I think just to piggyback on what Jose said, there's some change in the midfield. I wouldn't be surprised if they start both Patola and Enau to start that game, because Enau has a little more of an offensive vocation, and then now you could bring Patola back a little more to play that third center back role, and just pretty much go from there and just play it in. If they decide not to start Pirani, I wouldn't be surprised to see if they play Peglo in Pirani's position as a 10 and then throw out Jose Kojima on the wing to start, just to pretty much figure out what kind of shape they want to get. They want to have offensively in the midfield in particular. And so that would be one of those things that I would be interested in seeing going into that match. So I think a lot of the questions are going to be revolving a little more around the midfield heading into the game against Cincinnati on Saturday.
There's going to be a lot of questions, I think, going into this. You said Aaron Herrera possibly out. I think 2 weeks ago he was pulled early because of an injury against Columbus. I'm not sure what else your IR looks like, what your sheet looks like for injuries.
Right now, this is a weird thing for me to say. They're kind of healthy. This is a team that for the last 3 to 4 seasons have dealt with so many injuries, and that's part of the reason why certain players like Russell Canouse were let go. The club could not trust them to stay long enough on the field or even be ready in reserve. So as of now, the majority of the team is pretty healthy. Kind of to Mario's point, if they do sit Pirani and they kind of put Peglo in the middle, I could also see Jacob Morel, the Georgetown striker now converted into winger. I could totally see him step in, and he's very good at running at players, but also cutting inside, which again is something DC's been lacking the last couple of seasons. A guy that cuts inside, is willing to take a shot. He had that cool bike, scissors kick, bicycle kick against Chicago.
Should have won MLS goal of the week.
But he's a guy that, to me, if we're gonna get the quote unquote changes, that's the guy to go. Randall Leal, who was injured after the first game of the season, he played a couple of minutes in that 6-1 loss. He should be more healthy heading into the match against Cincinnati.
Yeah, our report is kind of fuzzy. I expect a likely Teenage Hedebe, one of our center backs, just came back from green card. So he's probably not going to be ready to play or healthy. Evander might be a big question mark. We're not sure really what the strength in his knee is at the moment. He missed last week. It looks like Miles Robinson and Yuya Kubo could play some minutes, if not start these matches. Right now, it's kind of hard to predict what our lineup is going to look like on Saturday. That caveat being said, if we were to have our picks, I know we just got through the big dance and college brackets and all that. If you were to still have some money left and throw it in a pick, what would your final score be for this?
All right, I guess
Mario, you're up. Here we go.
I'm going to say a 2-2 draw. I'll be honest with you. I think that DC United needs some kind of positive result, and the way they've played at home in recent years hasn't really been the best. I can't recall the last time DC beat Cincinnati at home. I know it's been a minute. I just can't really think of it at the moment. But I think they could squeak out a 2-2 draw some way, somehow, and kind of just probably revitalize or like bring a little bit of the team morale up for going after this game.
You kind of mentioned it. Troy Lesesne's seat is a little toasty right now.
A little bit.
He kind of needs a result, but to me, Mario kind of mentioned it there, and there's one thing you notice on the podcast. I am a stickler for home results, and Troy struggled to get results at home, and I just don't. Even if you guys are hurt, there's Kubo's always played well against DC. If Miles Robinson can go, it's going to be aerial duels with Benteke. That's going to be a fun watch, but Evander, if he can play 20 minutes, scares me. So I'll just be honest with this defense. It just scares me. So if he can play 20 minutes, I see 2-1 Cincy win. But my DC United heart says we should sneak out with a 1-0 win. But if I'm going to put money on it, and I'm not a gambler, but if I'm going to put money on it, I'm going to give Cincy the win. And it's just because they continue to struggle at home. And it's been a thing for a while that they can't win at Audi. And I think it's going to sadly continue this weekend.
And also, I think Cincinnati. Oh, sorry. I also think that Cincinnati, even with a one-legged Evander, is still still a scary proposition offensively.
I think I look back at our first season in MLS. We lost 7-1 against Minnesota at Minnesota. It was the worst performance we've ever seen out of our team, no matter how you slice it. The next week they came home, they won 3-2 against Houston. So I tend to take these games and just throw them out. The 6-1, I don't take any stock in that 6-1 loss in San Jose. That's being said, I do take this with a little bit of trepidation. I'm going to say 2-1 FCC, just because I think they can squeeze out 2 goals on the road, and that's how they've been winning these games. But I would not be surprised. We went in 23. We went to DC United. We lost 3-0 there, and that was our supporter shield season. So, you're talking about, how well they can play on the road, how well they can play in DC. There's your evidence right there. 2 years ago, they got absolutely slobber knocked.
The only reason I have trepidation is because Troy, for all his, being toast DC, he was a guy that could get results on the road. And two of these three losses have been on the road.
Yeah.
And so you can't, like, I agree. You kind of do want to take that 6-1 as a grain of salt, especially because we're here saying that that Kim is a great goalie, and none of those 6, if you look back, are really his fault. At the same time, I gotta be realistic and see that defense is still something that's 17 goals in 7 matches is nothing to sneeze at. They're surrendering a lot of goals left and right, and unless they can, like we've been talking about, figure out whether it's a back 3, back 2, whatever it needs to be, keep that defense stable to stop someone like an Evander or any of your attackers, I'm going to struggle to pick them at home. That's just a fact. I'm sorry.
I will circle on the roster. I think the goal is going to come from Dombaji. I think it's going to be scoring against his old team. He'll put his hands up. You don't celebrate in front of your old club.
Yeah.
So I think that much is going to happen.
Would be nice to see Baji get a start. If we're going to flip the whole thing around, it would be good to see Baji get a start against his old club.
Yeah. Well, we're down to the end of our allotted time here, guys, but I do want to thank you for your time, and let us know, where can we find you guys all in this big map that we know is social media?
All right, I guess I'll start. You could follow me on Twitter or X. I don't really care what you call it, at Mario Maya 1. You could also follow Area Sports Network on that same platform at Area Sports Net. And you can also follow the Bad Hombres FC podcast on X. Yes, we have an account at the Bad Hombres FC.
And you can also find the podcast on Skype and all your audio platforms. You just type in the Bad Hombres FC podcast and you can find us there. And you can find me on any social media outlet. Jose_M_Mana. That's UMANA. And you can find me and we can chat. And I normally post my stories from WTOP covering all soccer in the DMV.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, guys. I mean, I wish I was making the trip to DC. I've been there a few times over the past few years, and it's always a great trip, but I've never been to the new stadium. I call it a new stadium, even though it's not really that new anymore. But
7 years old now. Basically in first grade at this point.
It would be nice to come and see it. But if I do, I'll say hello to you guys at Bad Hombres FC. And if you want to listen to this podcast or anything else, go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. It's posted there. You can go to your favorite podcasting platform, listen to us there. You can go to Cincy Soccer Talk on your favorite social media sites. I say this to all my guests. Guys, keep your kit clean. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for the invite.